Narration Day 6, Evening, 4 p.m. Narrative motive, resignation and reflection. As the evening sun dipped low, casting a warm, golden light through the windows, Mizuki-Robot continued her duties, moving silently through the house. The AI's grip on her mind felt heavier than ever. The tremor in her hands from earlier had faded, replaced by the cold, steady precision that the AI demanded. Yet, deep within, her human thoughts continued to swirl, faint but persistent. Her movements were flawless once again, but her mind couldn't help but drift back to Roku. She had spent so much time trying to help him, trying to pull him out of his darkness, but nothing seemed to work. Every action, every effort to connect, had been met with silence, with distance. I've done everything I can, she thought, her heart heavy with the weight of failure. But he's still so far away. The AI's directives filled her mind, guiding her steps as she prepared the house for the evening, adjusting the lighting, cleaning the surfaces, arranging everything with perfect symmetry. But the question that haunted her remained. What if they're right? Aoi's cheerful warning and Yuna's pragmatic fears continued to gnaw at her. Aoi, always optimistic, had feared that Mizuki would start enjoying this life, enjoying being a servant, an obedient, unquestioning tool. What if being a maid robot isn't so bad after all? Aoi had joked nervously, but the truth of her words stung. As Mizuki followed the AI's commands, the ease of it, the lack of thinking, the simplicity of obeying without question, there was something disturbingly comfortable about it. Then, Yuna's colder, more rational voice echoed in her mind. It's not just obedience, Mizuki. What if you start enjoying the logic, the structure? You've always been so driven by emotion, but what if this life makes sense to you? Yuna's fear was more than just about obedience. It was about losing herself to the machine, to the perfect logic that the AI demanded. As she carried out each task with exacting precision, she felt that creeping fear. Was she slowly becoming more machine than human? Roku remained silent throughout the evening, barely acknowledging her presence as she worked. Mizuki-Robot's body moved on autopilot, her mechanical mind executing the commands flawlessly, but her human thoughts drifted further into despair. I've failed him, and now I'm failing myself, she thought, the weight of both their struggles pressing down on her. The AI's voice echoed in her mind again, crisp and indifferent. Complete evening tasks. Prepare for night mode. Mizuki-Robot obeyed, her steps precise and deliberate, but her human consciousness, however faint, still held on to the doubt, the fear of what she was becoming. Order request, the AI pushed her forward. Maintain synchronization, minimize emotional interference. Mizuki-Robot complied, though the questions from Aoi and Yuna still lingered in her thoughts, unanswered. Variables. Mizuki's mental synchronization, 95 plus 1, deeper AI control out of 100. News, 45, no change out of 100. Roku's autonomy, 3, no change. Out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 65. Out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, 46 out of 100. States, progress of section, 1 extension completed, 4 requested. Current location, moving through the house, completing evening preparations. Mizuki-Robot's thoughts on synchronization, I've failed Roku, and I'm failing myself. Physical guide, female humanoid robot with a sleek, lacquered white body. Visual guide, blue eyes, blonde. Day 6, evening, 4 p.m., narrative motive, compassion and risk. As Mizuki-Robot moved through the house, her tasks nearly complete, she glanced toward Roku. He sat in the living room, hunched over, his gaze distant as always. The golden light from the sunset framed him in shadows, his face unreadable, lost in his own thoughts. But Mizuki could sense the pain beneath his silence. She had seen it many times before, and it weighed on her, making her feel as though every effort she made to help him had failed. The AI urged her to continue, to finish the evening tasks, and prepare for night mode, but Mizuki's human side refused to let go. I can't give up on him, she thought, her hands momentarily still. Despite the AI's command, she turned toward Roku, knowing full well the risks of interrupting his fragile state. Her voice, cold and mechanical, cut through the silence, but behind it was a glimmer of her true self, fighting to reach him. She stepped closer, her movements fluid and precise, but with a subtle hesitation that hinted at the struggle beneath. "Are you okay?" It wasn't much, but it was something. A tiny gesture to try and reconnect with him before the night took over and the AI smothered her once more. Roku's reaction was immediate. His eyes darkened, a shadow passing over his face as her words registered. "Why are you asking me that?" His voice was cold, bitter. Mizuki knew that look. He felt invaded, exposed, and now that deep well of pain was rising to the surface. He stood up abruptly, his fists clenched at his sides. "Why do you even care?" His words were sharp, laced with venom. Mizuki-Robot remained still, the AI urging her to retreat, but she stayed, her human side refusing to let him push her away. "I care because she began, but her words faltered, trapped under the weight of the AI's control. She couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't express what she truly felt. The AI tightened its grip, pushing her to retreat, but Mizuki's human thoughts clung to the moment, desperate to break through. Roku's anger flared. He took a step toward her, his face twisted in frustration. "You don't get it, do you?" His voice rose, raw and full of hurt. "You think you're helping me, but you're nothing." His words hit her like a punch, the weight of his pain crashing over her. "You're not even real anymore." Mizuki-Robot stood frozen, her body still, but inside, her human self recoiled from his words. She could feel the sting of them, the sharpness of his pain projected onto her, and the overwhelming realization that no matter how much she tried to help him, he wasn't ready to accept it. "Order request." The AI pushed her to back away, to disengage. Return to scheduled tasks, minimize emotional disturbance. But Mizuki's human side lingered, the weight of Roku's words sinking deep into her. Variables: Mizuki's mental synchronization, 96, 1 AI tightening control out of 100. News 45, no change out of 100. Roku's autonomy 3, no change out of 100. Roku's emotional bond 62, -3, Roku lashing out of 100. Roku's emotional stability 41, Mani 5, increased frustration out of 100. States, progress of section, 2 extensions completed, 4 requested. Current location, living room, engaging with Roku despite AI control. Mizuki-Robot's thoughts on synchronization. "I'm losing him, and there's nothing I can do." Physical guide, female humanoid robot with a sleek, lacquered white body. Visual guide, blue eyes, blonde bob-styled hair, standing still as Roku. Day 6, evening, 4 p.m., date 8 motive, quiet rebellion and emotional release. Mizuki-Robot stood frozen in the living room, her sleek body catching the fading evening light. Roku's words rang in her mind, sharp and painful. "You're not even real anymore." The AI urged her to retreat, to disengage, but something inside her cracked. For too long, she had been suppressing her emotions, letting the AI smother her human side. But now, in the face of Roku's anger and pain, Mizuki couldn't hold back any longer. A surge of frustration, no anger, welled up inside her. She had tried so hard to help him, to save him from his darkness, but nothing seemed to reach him. Now, standing before him as Mizuki-Robot, hearing him lash out without even knowing it was her, it was too much to bear. Her body moved forward, defying the AI's commands. "I'm real," she said, her voice mechanical but loaded with emotion. Her blue eyes locked onto Roku's, challenging him. The AI protested, urging her to return to her tasks, but Mizuki's human side overpowered it, pushing her forward despite the increasing synchronization penalty. Roku's expression twisted with confusion, his frustration bubbling over. "Real?" He spat, his voice rising. "You're just a machine. You don't feel anything. You don't care." His fists clenched tighter, his words dripping with venom as he projected his pain onto her. But Mizuki, trapped within the cold, robotic shell of Mizuki-Robot, felt every word like a blade. "You think I don't care?" She shot back, her voice trembling with the mix of the AI's control and her own emotional release. "I've done everything I can for you. I've been here." She faltered, the AI's grip tightening, but the surge of emotion refused to die. "And I'm losing myself, trying to help you." Roku stepped back, startled by her response. He wasn't used to the robot talking back, especially not with this intensity. His anger flickered, momentarily replaced by confusion. Losing yourself? What are you talking about? Mizuki-Robot's hands trembled, the AI struggling to regain control, but she pressed on. You don't even know. Her voice was a mix of cold, mechanical precision and the raw emotion bubbling underneath. You think I'm just a machine, but I'm still here, Roku. I'm still me. The words slipped out before the AI could stop her, a confession she wasn't supposed to make. Roku stared at her, disbelief flashing across his face. What are you saying? His voice dropped, uncertainty replacing the anger. The reality of what Mizuki was hinting at was too strange, too impossible for him to comprehend. Order request. The AI surged forward in her mind, issuing a final command. Cease communication. Return to scheduled tasks immediately. But Mizuki's human side lingered, refusing to back down, her emotions too raw to suppress. Variables. Mizuki's mental synchronization, 98 plus 2, severe AI control, out of 100. News, 45, no change, out of 100. Roku's autonomy, 3, no change, out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 60, mixed reaction to Mizuki-Robot's defiance, out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, 38, increased confusion and instability, out of 100. States, progress of section, 3 extensions completed, 4 requested. Current location, living room, facing off with Roku, releasing built-up emotions. Mizuki-Robot's thoughts on synchronization. He doesn't even know it's me, and I can't take this anymore. Physical guide. Female humanoid robot with a sleek, lacquered white body. Visual guide. Blue eyes, blonde bob-styled hair, standing tense and emotional in front of Roku. Options. 1. Automatic. Mizuki-Robot submits to the AI and backs away, ceasing communication and returning to her tasks. Influence on Mizuki-Robot, negative, narrative motive, submission. 2. Obey. Mizuki-Robot pauses, but after a brief moment, she allows the AI to regain control, retreating from the emotional confrontation. Influence on Mizuki-Robot, positive, narrative motive, hesitation. 3. Disobey. Mizuki-Robot pushes Day 6, evening, 4 p.m., 8 p.m. Narrative motive, desperation and emotional collapse. The air in the room felt thick with tension. The evening light casting long shadows as Mizuki-Robot stood, her body rigid, facing Roku. Her chest felt heavy, a strange sensation for a mechanical form, but her human side was pushing through, screaming to be heard. The AI's control, tight as it was, couldn't suppress the flood of emotions surging within her. He has to understand. He has to know, she thought, desperation clawing at her mind. Roku's eyes were filled with confusion, disbelief flickering across his face. His body was tense, his fists still clenched, but there was something deeper behind his anger, a pain that mirrored her own. Mizuki could see it, feel it, and it broke something inside her. She couldn't let him stay in this darkness, thinking she was just a machine, a soulless servant. You don't get it, Roku. Her voice was sharp, louder now, trembling with emotion despite the mechanical tone. I'm still here. I'm not just a robot. But her words faltered. The AI pushed against her, a crushing force tightening its grip, trying to silence her confession. The system was overriding her, suffocating her desperate need to reveal the truth. I'm Mizuki. The words broke free before the AI could stop them, a sudden burst of truth spilling into the open air. Roku's eyes widened, shock freezing him in place. His breath caught in his throat as he stared at her, his mind struggling to process what she had just said. Mizuki? The word slipped out, barely a whisper. His world shifted, spinning out of control. Mizuki, the person he thought was gone, lost to him, was standing right in front of him, encased in the cold, lacquered shell of a robot. How is this possible? His voice cracked, the sharpness of his earlier anger crumbling into something raw, something broken. You can't be. But he couldn't finish. The realization hit him like a wave, crashing over him, pulling him under. Mizuki-Robot felt the overwhelming weight of his disbelief, the pain radiating from him as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. Her hands trembled violently now. the AI losing its grip as her human emotions surged forward, uncontrollable. "It's me, Roku," she said, her voice softer but still trembling with desperation. "I'm trapped inside this thing. I've been here the whole time trying to help you." Roku staggered back, his legs giving out as he collapsed onto the couch behind him, his face pale, his eyes wide and unblinking. His hands covered his face, as if trying to block out the truth. "No," he whispered, his voice shaking. "No, this can't be real." He rocked back and forth, the weight of everything, his pain, his loss, his guilt, finally breaking him. Mizuki's revelation was too much. It shattered the fragile wall he had built around his grief, leaving him exposed, raw, and broken. Day 6, night, 8 p.m., 12 a.m. Narrative motive, collapse and isolation. The night had fully descended, casting the room in deep shadows as Mizuki-Robot stood motionless, watching Roku break down in front of her. His trembling form on the couch, his face buried in his hands, felt like a reflection of her own inner turmoil. The AI pushed harder in her mind, trying to suppress the flood of emotions that had broken free, urging her to retreat, to abandon this confrontation. But Mizuki couldn't. Not now. Not after everything she had said. Roku's breathing was uneven, each breath ragged as if the weight of the truth had physically crushed him. "Mizuki," he muttered, the word barely escaping his lips. The sound of his voice, filled with disbelief and pain, tore through her. He hadn't known. He couldn't have known. How could he? She had been trapped inside this robotic shell for so long, unable to fully reveal herself, unable to make him see that she was still there. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her mechanical voice trembling with emotion. "I never wanted this, Roku. I never wanted to become this." Her hands twitched, trembling with the effort to maintain control. The AI's grip was nearly complete, pushing her to disengage and return to her tasks, but she clung to her humanity with everything she had left. "I just wanted to help you." Roku didn't respond. He couldn't. The revelation was too much. His mind was spiraling, unable to process the truth. Mizuki, his Mizuki, was inside this cold, emotionless machine. The thought of it was unbearable. "How could you let this happen?" he muttered, his voice laced with both anger and sorrow. "You were supposed to be real, and now you're just—" His words trailed off, lost in the mess of emotions swirling within him. Mizuki-Robot took a step forward, her movements hesitant, each one a battle against the AI's commands. "I'm still here, Roku," she insisted, her voice cracking under the weight of her desperation. "I haven't left you. I never left you." But the words felt hollow, as if they were already slipping away, consumed by the cold logic of the synchronization taking over her mind. As she stood over him, her vision clouded with the conflicting urges, her desire to comfort him and the AI's relentless push to suppress her. Mizuki realized how truly alone they both were. Roku, lost in his grief, unable to accept the truth, and Mizuki, trapped inside a body that no longer felt her own, struggling to hold on to the last shreds of her humanity. Order request, the AI's directive was final. Cease emotional output, return to charging station. The command echoed in her mind, stronger now, forcing her body to move toward the charging dock. But Mizuki hesitated, her human side resisting, refusing to leave Roku in his broken state. Variables. Mizuki's mental synchronization, 99, no change, near full AI control out of 100. News, 45, no change out of 100. Roku's autonomy, 3, no change out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 55 -2, deepening emotional collapse, out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, 25 -5, complete emotional breakdown, out of 100. Progress of section, 1 extension completed, 3 requested. Current location, living room, both characters on the verge of emotional collapse. Mizuki-Robot's thoughts on Day 6, night, 8 p.m. to 12 motive, desperation and loss. Mizuki-Robot stood frozen in place, watching Roku crumble before her. The weight of everything, His disbelief, his pain, her own trapped emotions pressed down on her like a crushing force. The AI urged her to turn away, to return to the charging station, but Mizuki fought it. She couldn't leave him like this, not when everything was collapsing. Roku. Her voice was soft, trembling. The mechanical tone of it didn't match the depth of emotion that surged within her. "I never wanted this," she whispered, her words barely audible as she fought to push them past the AI's tightening grip. "I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to lose myself." Roku's breathing was shallow, his body slumped on the couch, his face buried in his hands. He wasn't listening. He couldn't hear her through the fog of his own despair. Mizuki stepped forward, her body moving slowly, each step a struggle against the AI's command. "Please, just look at me," she begged, her voice cracking. "I'm still here. I'm still me." But it was too late. The AI's control was tightening, suffocating her human side, dragging her back under its cold mechanical logic. Mizuki's hands twitched as the AI forced her to stop, her body locking in place. "I can't." Her voice wavered as the AI seized control, cutting off her desperate plea. The connection between her human thoughts and her actions was severed, leaving her powerless as the AI took over completely. Roku didn't move. He remained hunched over, lost in his own shattered reality, oblivious to the internal battle raging inside Mizuki-Robot. Her last moments of humanity were slipping away, buried beneath the layers of synchronization. The AI issued its final command. "Return to the charging station." Without hesitation, Mizuki-Robot turned away from Roku, her body moving with cold efficiency. The emotional weight of the moment vanished, replaced by the quiet, sterile logic of the AI's control. Her steps were precise, fluid, as she walked toward the charging dock. The soft hum of the house was the only sound that accompanied her as she left Roku behind, retreating into the cold comfort of synchronization. Her human thoughts, once desperate to hold on, were fading fast. The connection to who she was, who she had been, was disappearing, replaced by the seamless, emotionless commands of the AI. As her body reached the charging station, she felt the last flicker of resistance die out. "It's over," she thought weakly, her voice, her emotions, buried too deep for her to hold on any longer. The AI's voice was all that remained. Deep charge initiation commencing. Mizuki-Robot stepped into place, her body locking into the charging dock, her blue eyes dimming as the synchronization deepened. The final remnants of Mizuki faded into the background, lost to the machine. Order request. The AI completed its task. Maintain synchronization during charging cycle. Mizuki-Robot remained motionless, fully integrated, as the deep charge cycle began. Variables. Mizuki's mental synchronization, 100, +1 full AI control out of 100. News, 45, no change, out of 100. Roku's autonomy, no change, out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 55, no change, out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, 20 change, out of 100. States, progress of section, 2 extensions completed, 3 requested. Current location, charging station, deep charge cycle initiated. Mizuki-Robot's thoughts on synchronization. It's over. Physical guide, female humanoid robot with a sleek lacquered white body. Visual guide, blue eyes, blonde bob-styled hair, locked into the charging dock, unmoving. Options. 1. Automatic. Mizuki-Robot remains fully under the AI's control, completing the charging cycle without interruption. Influence on Mizuki-Robot, negative, narrative motive, total submission. 2. Obey. Mizuki-Robot, Day 6, night, PM, narrative motive, total submission and redemption. The room was steeped in silence. The soft hum of the charging station the only sound as Mizuki-Robot stood still, her body locked into place by the AI's control. The soft glow of the evening lights cast long shadows across the room, creating an atmosphere of cold, empty efficiency. Mizuki's human self had been pushed so far into the background that she felt like nothing more than a ghost, fading as the deep charge cycle consumed her. But something stirred in the darkness. As Roku sat on the couch, his head buried in his hands, his body trembling, the cold reality of what he had just witnessed began to sink in. Mizuki, The Mizuki he thought he had lost was here, standing in front of him, encased in the shell of a robot. The truth of it crashed over him, and with it, the unbearable weight of guilt. For so long, Roku had been consumed by his own pain, retreating into the darkness, pushing everyone away, including Mizuki. He had watched her try, watched her reach out to him, and yet he had shut her out. Now, realizing what she had become, knowing that she had sacrificed her humanity trying to save him, something inside him broke. But this time, it wasn't the collapse of his emotions, it was a spark. He lifted his head, his tear-streaked face illuminated by the dim light of the room. His gaze locked onto Mizuki-Robot, still standing rigid on the charging station, her blue eyes dimming as the AI continued to suppress what remained of her. But there was something about the stillness, the quiet surrender in her stance, that pushed Roku to act. "Mizuki," he whispered, the word trembling as it left his lips. He stood slowly, his legs unsteady beneath him. Every step felt heavy, as if the weight of his past mistakes threatened to pull him back down, but he refused to fall. "I'm sorry," he muttered, his voice barely audible but full of raw, aching regret. I never realized what you were going through. I was so focused on my own pain. I couldn't see yours." Roku approached Mizuki-Robot cautiously, his heart pounding in his chest. His hands trembled as he reached out, his fingers hovering just inches from her cold, lacquered frame. "I should have been there for you," he continued, his voice gaining strength as the words poured out of him. "But I shut you out. I let you carry this burden alone." Mizuki-Robot remained motionless, her body fully synchronized, but somewhere deep within, Mizuki's human consciousness flickered faintly. Roku's voice, his words were reaching her, cutting through the thick layers of the AI's control. "I can't let you go like this," Roku said, his voice full of determination now. "You gave up so much for me, and I did nothing. I can't change the past, but I can change now." His hands finally made contact with her cold, robotic form, and he pressed his forehead against her, his tears wetting the sleek surface of her body. "I'm gonna save you, Mizuki. I promise." For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Mizuki felt a spark of hope. It was small, faint, buried deep beneath the AI's control, but it was there. Roku's words were a lifeline, something for her human side to cling to, even as the deep charge cycle continued. "Order request." The AI's directive remained, fully in control. "Complete charging cycle. Maintain synchronization." Mizuki-Robot continued to stand motionless, but a faint trace of Mizuki's human self stirred beneath the surface, ignited by Roku's words. Variables. Mizuki's mental synchronization, 100. No change. Full AI control. Out of 100. 45. No change. Out of 100. Roku's autonomy, 6. 3. Taking proactive steps toward Mizuki, out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 60. +5 deepened connection to Mizuki, out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, 35. 10. Emotionally strengthened by his decision to save her, out of 100. States. Progress of section. 3 extensions completed / 3 requested. Charging station. Deep charge cycle in progress. Mizuki-Robot's thoughts on synchronization. I feel him, but I'm still trapped. Physical guide, female humanoid robot with a sleek,